It is Tuesday, June 16. Welcome to CGN News. Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley has discontinued the national curfew except for weekends. Speaking during a televised national address, Mottley stated that from June 15 there will be no restrictions of movement between Monday and Thursday in terms of curfew hours. The new curfew prohibits traversing from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday only. Public service officers and employees of state-owned enterprises are to return to work on Monday. All businesses, third sector agencies, and organizations are eligible to reopen as well. Mottley said that the strict health protocols were worked on by the government in conjunction with the private sector and the union movement. In Trinidad, 306 nationals from a Royal Caribbean cruise ship returned home, and hundreds more are due to arrive in the country within the week. According to Health Minister Terence Dale Singh, Trinidad and Tobago's parallel healthcare system will be put to the test. The 306 nationals on board the Enchantment of the Seas cruise ship returned to the country on Friday. Following an agreement between Royal Caribbean Cruises and the government, the ship will stay for a 14-day quarantine period. These nationals will remain in quarantine on board the vessel. In addition to those repatriated from the cruise ship, 30 others were cleared to enter quarantine and 29 are from Venezuela. St. Lucia's Cabinet of Ministers has adjusted the current protocols under the COVID-19 state of emergency, including a new midnight to 5 a.m. curfew. The lessening of the curfew time went into effect from Monday, June 15, 2020. In addition to the new curfew, social activities will be allowed with established health protocols. Senior Communications Officer in the Office of the Prime Minister, Nicole MacDonald, explained that the amendments were made to the Emergency Powers Disaster COVID-19 order. She explained that for now, the government wants to ensure the established physical distancing and health protocols remain in effect. A person can now host and attend social activities, mass crowd events where hundreds or thousands of people attend, as well as sporting tournaments and contact sports still remain on the restricted list of social activities. The Cabinet also lifted restrictions on the sale of intoxicating liquor by licensed establishments. Despite becoming one of the first Caribbean destinations to reopen to tourism on June 1, Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Gaston Brown, says they will have no choice but to increase the country's debt burden. He says this is due directly to the effect that the COVID-19 lockdown has had on the country's economy. Brown says it will take $150 million to help stimulate economy, especially agriculture and construction. The Prime Minister disclosed that as the months go by, it is becoming increasingly difficult to pay Antigua's public servants. Overseas now, 3 Indian soldiers have been killed in a clash with Chinese forces in Ladakh in the disputed Kashmir region. The deaths are the first in the disputed border area in at least 45 years and follow rising military tensions between the nuclear powers. The Indian Army said senior military officials from both sides were meeting to defuse the situation, adding that both sides suffered casualties. An Indian Army spokesman said the dead were 1 officer and 2 soldiers. China did not confirm any casualties, but accused India of crossing the border in the Galwan Valley. Chinese Foreign Minister spokesman Zhao Lijian said India had crossed the border twice on Monday, provoking and attacking Chinese personnel, resulting in serious physical confrontation between border forces on the 2 sides, AFP news agency reported. Both sides insist no bullet has been fired in 4 decades, and the Indian Army said on Tuesday that, quote, no shots were fired, end quote, in this latest skirmish. Local media outlets reported that the Indian soldiers were beaten to death, but there was no confirmation from the military. India has accused China of sending thousands of troops into Ladakh's Galwan Valley and says China occupies 38,000 square kilometers of its territory. Several rounds of talks in the last 3 decades have failed to resolve the boundary disputes. The deaths reported on Tuesday are believed to be the first in decades in a confrontation between the 2 powers. They have fought only 1 war so far in 1962, when India suffered a humiliating defeat. An American Christian missionary has pleaded guilty in a U.S. court to sexually abusing young girls at the orphanage he started in Kenya. Gregory Dow, 61, admitted to 4 counts of engaging in illicit sexual conduct with a minor in a foreign place. The orphanage was in operation from 2008 to 2017 when Dow left Kenya. The FBI and Kenyan authorities investigated, and he was charged in the U.S. In 2008, Dow founded the orphanage in western Kenya. It was partly funded by churches in Lancaster County in the U.S. state of Pennsylvania, reports local newspaper LNP. He's accused of assaulting girls from 2013. 2 of the girls were 11, 1 was 12, and another 13. In a statement, the U.S. Department of Justice said Dow purported to be a Christian missionary who cared for these children and asked them to call him Dad, but instead of being a father figure, he preyed on their youth and vulnerability. He fled Kenya in September 2017 when the allegations of assault came to light, the statement adds. Prosecutors pointed out that in 1996 he pleaded guilty to assault with intent to commit sexual abuse, for which he received 2 years probation and was ordered to register as a sex offender for a decade. Dow is scheduled to be sentenced on September 29, according to the AP news agency. Hundreds of people have protested in cities across Lebanon for a second night over the handling of the country's economic crisis. The Lebanese pound has fallen to a record low, having lost 70% of its value since October when protests began. The financial crisis has worsened during the coronavirus pandemic. Protesters in Beirut and in the northern city of Tripoli threw stones and fireworks at police who used tear gas and rubber bullets. Many Lebanese citizens who rely on hard currency savings have fallen into poverty due to capital controls as banks restrict dollar withdrawals. More than a third of the population is unemployed. The pound's decline appeared to halt on Friday after the government announced that the central bank would begin injecting more US dollars into the market in a bid to stop the pound's free fall. The move is set to begin on Monday. It comes as the government prepares to hold talks with the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, with the hopes of securing billions of dollars in financing to help put the country's economy back on track. That's it for CGN News. I'm Scott Wilson. Thanks for watching.